Urban Roots is such a cool program. I'm sure you enjoyed that piece. Right now we're going to be meeting Joe and John Dwyer from Angel Valley Organic Farm. Welcome back to Central Texas Gardener.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back here. We're going to be talking about transitioning the veggie garden into the fall and getting ready for the winter crops and all that kind of stuff. But I want to take just a moment right at the beginning here just to talk about what you do out at Angel Valley and the response you're getting right now in the local community to locally grown food.
It's huge. Our biggest problem really now is that we're a small farm and we can't meet demand. I mean, it's a wonderful problem to have.
Yeah.
It's better than just sitting there thinking, where are the customers, where are the customers? Now it's thinking, how can we grow more and how can we get more stuff to them?
Yeah, it seems to me that there's been almost like a tidal shift in the past 5 years with people's awareness about the importance of supporting locally grown food and really appreciating the quality that comes with that.
We've been building our farm up for, this is our 11th year, and every year has gotten subsequently better and better and better. And this year, at the beginning, we weren't real sure how the economic events were going to affect the farm, and I think it just shows that eating locally is really important.
Yeah. Well, people are investing in things they really care about, and locally grown food is one of those things. Let's talk about stuff to do out there at the farm and in our backyards right now. And, a lot of people say the fall garden and into the winter really is the best time to garden in Central Texas when it comes to food and veggie gardening. What are some of the things that you can do now when it's so hot out there still in September? It's pretty brutal. What are some of the things that you can do to get those seedlings that you need to get going now started?
Well, to get your garden started?
It's right now. It depends on what was in your garden to begin with. If you have a large garden that part of it was set aside for the fall, then it's just a matter of getting those beds prepared. If you still have some summer stuff that's pretty much fried out there, because it probably is, it's time to get the diseased plants out or turn the organic matter back in and prep the soil and get it ready to go in with what you're going to be planting for the fall.
Right. So prep work is essential, and a lot of people get to that even earlier in August, and they're turning the compost in and getting things ready at that time. Well, but starting those seedlings, it seems like counterintuitive. It's so brutal still. What are some tricks to get those seedlings up successful?
It kind of depends on what you're going to put in there. Things will surprise you. In mid-September, you can start things like greens. Chard will do well. Kale, collards. We start our beets. We start our turnips. You can try radishes. We've had a little trouble with those when it's too hot, but if it cools down. And then soon enough, once it gets a little bit cooler, you're going to be able to start lettuces and spinach and carrots. The ground has to be cooler and all that. As far as brassicas, the big things like broccoli and cauliflower that everybody wants, you're going to need to do transplants in mid-September.
Okay.
And a rule of thumb that we do is we try to look for early plants, like shorter days rather than longer days. Broccoli closer to like 50 to 60 days rather than 60 to 70 days.
Okay.
And for a gardener, they're going to get they're going to get their stuff quicker, and it's going to be, it'll make them happier.
Right. So things that go to actually start to produce in shorter periods of time. I always tell people, and everybody wants to do tomatoes again in the fall. It's like, okay, you can do that, but use early girl.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, exactly.
What are some, if you do have some of the little plants out there in the ground itself, what are some ways to help them along if we get another one of these heat spells, for example, comes on where it's in upper 90s and the wind is blowing, it's dry and desiccating? How do you keep those things alive?
There's two things you can do. One is shade cloth. If you can find some shade cloth, you can hoop over your plants and anchor them on both sides, and use some 40% shade would work. But even row cover, a lighter row cover will work. It keeps the moisture in the soil. it keeps the air from drying them out. And although you're trapping that heat in there, it's amazing that plants will withstand higher temperatures with higher humidity.
Just don't look under the row cover in midday because you'll panic. It's terrifying. I do that a lot. And John will say, well, don't look at it now. Look at it tomorrow morning. Because it'll just, I mean, they'll just look like, you know, this.
Yeah, right.
But then they'll perk back up. It's amazing.
Their natural reaction is just to droop.
Yeah.
So you're looking at plants that are just in their worst condition they could possibly be in.
Sure. So shade cloth or floating row cover, use the hoops.
I like a half-inch Schedule 40 PVC is really the, and you can go with wire and things like that, you know, a heavier gauge wire, but if you can find a half-inch Schedule 40 PVC and cut it in anywhere from 5 to 6 foot lengths, and you have soft enough ground that you can, you have to do it when and this is something that I've found, you have to do it when it's warm, because it will bend in that short distance when it's warm, but if you try to do it in cooler temperatures, it'll snap.
That's a good tip.
But Schedule 40 will bend where 3/4 inch will kink.
So put it out in the heat?
Well, it has to be done in the heat. I tried doing some this past winter, and I actually took them in a greenhouse to get them up to 80 or 90 degrees because I was snapped, and they're dangerous.
Yeah.
When they break, when half-inch Schedule 40 snaps in the cold, it's sending fragments all over. So
I take it you do drip irrigation for your plants, so that you don't have to worry about taking the cloth off and all that kind of stuff, which is an important thing to think about if you're going to do the hoops for cover.
That's true.
You know, especially if you use floating row cover, a little awkward to water.
Yeah, it's a pain in the neck.
But establish yourself in such a way that it makes it easy to take it off and put it on. You know, anchoring it on one side. We use half-inch rebar. And we use little pins that go down on the rebar and hold them. So it's just a matter of taking it off one side, flipping it over, watering, and putting it back on.
Yeah. You know, when I have really tender little plants out there, my tendency is to want to baby them. You know, I want to give them extra love and attention. I know it's easy to overwater a seedling. You have to be really cautious about that. The water has to drain well. But I also like to add things. I typically, for a young seedling, I'll use something like liquid seaweed. Do you have a favorite thing that you use as a fertilizer?
The seaweed is
it's
excellent.
Big. Yeah, kelp. We do like a kelp and molasses mixture.
Kelp, molasses, and then a yucca. There's a yucca extract that you can get that's a
really?
sticker.
I've never heard of this before.
It's used for whenever you're using BT or something like that to extend the life of it. But also it has some properties of enabling things like that to last on the plants longer.
Okay. And all the stuff that we're talking about for protecting from the heat kind of applies for the cold too. And you know, a lot of the plants that we're talking about here, you get them started now, and they start to grow and develop over the fall, but it's not really until the winter time that the harvest comes, certainly for the brassicas, the cauliflowers, and the broccoli and stuff like that. And I always, when I think of winter gardening, I think of lettuce. You know, it's just like the greens, the collard greens, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So is it really important to protect those during the winter time as well?
We do. We do. You're just going to have nicer, I mean, you're not going to have tip burn and all that kind of things. You're just going to have a lot nicer looking. Chard is a lot more delicate. Collards can handle it better. Kale can handle it better. But it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
The thing about row cover, and if you have it sitting there already, it doesn't hurt to throw it on there. We get such extremes. We'll go from being in the 80s and low 90s for a long period of time, and then bam, you know, all of a sudden you're down to freezing temperatures.
Right.
That's where plants really, they just freak out.
Okay. Well, I want to give people, you know, you grow such a wonderful variety of things, and I understand that your farm stand is going to be back up and operating in the end of this month in September. And you have a website that informs people. What's the website?
AngelValleyFarms.com.
AngelValleyFarms.com.
Sadly, yeah, somebody had already taken Angel Valley Farm when we were looking for a domain name.
Curse them.
I wasn't happy there in Oregon.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, farms, they'll find you. And again, congratulations on the growing success of not just your individual farm, but this whole movement of local organic farmers. I think it's so exciting and such a good thing for our community that we have folks like you out there doing this work for us and bringing the fresh food right to our tables practically, which is wonderful.
Well, it's great to have someone like you on the air that's promoting this as well.
Well, it's a mutual admiration society, so it's great. Congratulations again. Thanks for being with us. And coming up next, Daphne Richards is going to be bringing you Down to Earth.